Welcome everybody to this workshop on archetypal coaching with Alba Carod. Let's take a moment to land in the space together. I'm going to then read Alba's introduction so that we know more about our esteemed teacher today. And then I'll hand over to Alba to lead us into the workshop that we're gathering for on this occasion. So even if you're watching the recording later on, let's come into circle together. Let's find ourselves coming together as if we were joining around a campfire, coming to listen to an elder who's here to share her experience and her wisdom and expertise with us today. So in whichever way you like to imagine taking your place by the fire, in the wilderness perhaps, a warm campfire, and we're all meeting intentionally to connect and to learn together. And you can imagine this in whichever way you like. And as you start to sense the ambience of a welcoming campfire, let's also drop into our own bodies and make sure that we're actually here, inside our bodies, as opposed to drifting off somewhere, getting lost in thought. And take a few moments to feel the breath of life as it moves through you. Feel yourself being breathed. Following inhalations and exhalations all the way in, all the way out. Starting to get a sense of your body as a whole. Exploring the entire volume of space that your whole body occupies. Allowing spacious awareness to drift throughout and around your body. Encapsulating your body in a field of awareness. And allowing your awareness to expand. Filling the room where you are with your presence. Occupying the room with your full awareness. And experiencing yourself in this expanded state of awareness. And in this expanded experience of yourself, let's remember the campfire around which we are circled. Staying in your somatic open awareness, you might allow eyes to open gently, seated around the campfire as we are. looking around to see the faces illuminated by the warm flames, reaching up into the sky above, so we can see who's here, who's around the fire with us today, looking around the circle, including those joining later on. May we all feel present and welcome in the space today. And among us is Alba Carod, a transpersonal coach and psychology teacher from Barcelona. Fascinated by archetypes and astrology since youth, she became a certified astrologer through the Astrological Faculty of London and earned a degree in psychology. Early in her counseling work, she blended archetypal insights with therapy, but noticed clients struggled with action and agency. In 2020, during her studies with Aleph Trust, she was inspired to integrate archetypal work into a transpersonal coaching framework, enhancing both insight and empowerment. I had the great pleasure of accompanying Alba on Aleph Trust's Transpersonal Coaching Psychology Certificate Program. It's inspiring to see how Alba has developed her coaching specialization, and now to witness this being brought into the world through her new book, Archetypal Synergy, which I was honored to review. In this fantastic book, Alba takes transpersonal coaching to a whole new level through creatively integrating astrology, dream work, and active imagination. This groundbreaking book provides fresh perspectives and practical guidance for coaches and other helping practitioners who value the transpersonal approach in their work. Alba's seminal ideas, helpful examples, and illustrative case stories share the harmonious blending and collaboration of astrology and dream work to create an impactful approach in transpersonal coaching. I feel immensely proud of Alba and delighted to add Archetypal Synergy to our list of highly recommended books for our transpersonal coaching students and those working professionally in the field. Alba, thank you for taking time to come and share your approach to transpersonal coaching with us today. It's welcome to have you in this space with us, and I look forward to learning more from you.
Thank you very much, Jevon, for your kind introduction. So, thanks everyone for coming today. And now I'm going to share my screen. So as Jevon has already told you, I was a student of Aleph Trust, and he was my tutor as well since I started the master's. So it's been a long journey with Jevon, and I'm really happy to be here with him and with all of you. And I will start by saying that after finishing the certificate, I decided to keep investigating a bit more on the work that I could present for the certificate. And then finally, I presented the idea to Routledge, and they said, okay, they asked me to make some amendments, but finally I could publish the book. So I would like just to give you an overview of the core principles of archetypal coaching. First of all, transpersonal coaching. And why? Because this is the perfect framework. It's spiritual and holistic growth beyond personal boundaries, focus. Then active imagination, Jungian active imagination, because it engages the unconscious through creative visualization. I also integrate Assagioli's subpersonalities work because it integrates diverse aspects of the self into a unified whole. And the main background of everything is the archetypal work. So we are using here universal symbols, planetary symbols, for a deeper understanding of the psyche. And this is very, very much connected to dream work, because dream work is giving us insights on the unconscious mind. The dreams could be like what our inner self wants now to explore, and the archetypes could show us more potentials that we have. So today we will explore how to integrate dream work and planetary archetypes in transpersonal coaching, and some practical tools for working with archetypes and subpersonalities. First of all, I would start with creating a safe space. And this is very much what you are studying with Jevon and practicing. Just allowing the client to select the topic of discussion, and then going to a mindfulness practice. I would say more a somatic awareness, open awareness, guiding the client through a grounding exercise. And then just when we are tuned into the somatic awareness practice, we can resonate with the client's story. We can practice empathic resonance. This empathic resonance is very much introduced by the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology in Palo Alto. Her name is Rosemary something, now I don't remember. But this is a practice that you tune into your clients' feelings, emotions, and I would say that's basic and more important even than the archetypal work, because we are like antennas, right? And when we are meditating with our clients, we receive intuitive insights that should be taken into account, like from the beginning. So I would say we could start with a dream, because with many clients, I've seen that the first dream they bring to coaching, it's going to be very important. And it's going to be something that in a dramatic way, in an imaginary way, is explaining the main issue of the client. And it's a message from the client's unconscious. So first of all, we would explore associations of the client and guide him or her to notice sensations and feelings associated to their thoughts. That would be very important. Next, we would guide clients to short meditation, somatic awareness, open awareness. And in this expanded state of mind and body, just practice active imagination and start to use dream symbols and connect these symbols to some archetypes that make some sense. I will explain that later with examples. And then finally, after having worked active imagination and clients have some homework, some exercises to work at home, they can create a symbol. That would be a Jungian transcendent function. Then after having worked with dreams and archetypes, they can create a symbol that encapsulates the process that they are working. Here you have an example, one of my clients. She brought a dream in our first session or second session, where she saw herself in 3 different ages, one being a very small girl, and then like older girl, and then a teenager. And this dream, she identified herself as in a pivotal time of her life where she needed to integrate some emotional experiences. So because it was her childhood and it was very much about relationship to her mom and emotional experiences, we connected this dream to the moon, the archetype of the moon, which is related to childhood, motherhood. Then we practiced active imagination. And in active imagination, I brought the symbols of her dream, because she was explaining that she was dreaming about some butterflies that were caressing her and leaving some color on her skin. So that was very, you could feel it, this dream. It was a lot about sensations and the colors. And we made this active imagination exercise between the children and also the moon, and asking the moon about some guidance. And yeah, she received some guidance about in this exercise. And finally, she made this drawing, and she also built a real butterfly with these papers. And then what do they do once they have the art piece? They just leave it there, because we follow also Hillman's imaginal psychology, which is based on let the images speak to you, not necessarily always trying to find reasoning, this means that, this means that. Just this is the language of the psyche, and the psyche wants to manifest when she wants to manifest, and the symbols are talking to our right hemisphere of the brain. So yeah, we do some association at the beginning of dream work, but finally we let these symbols talk to us. Then I also want to explain to you the archetypal foundations of archetypal coaching. It's very much based in ancient Greek philosophy, and especially with Pythagoras, Plato, and the Neoplatonists. Why? Because they were the philosophers that looked to the planets and just explained the meaning of them. And it's very interesting how Plato, in his books, like the Timaeus, the Epinomis, he explains the idea of cosmos as a harmonious and intelligent order of the universe. And they also explain the soul's journey. I mean, Pythagoras, and then Plato, he wrote all the teachings of Pythagoras, and then the Neoplatonists. And they explain how the soul moves into celestial movement, symbolizing the soul's path. The soul moves through the planets after leaving this earth. And of course, the Platonic theory of forms, these eternal archetypes underlying reality, is very much connected to the Jungian unconscious. So basically, planets are spiritual forces guiding towards integration and transformation. And archetypal psychology is very much based into this framework, and also taking into account that planets, they are not just spiritual entities, but they also mirror our inner patterns, our psychological struggles, and here they can be very helpful. Besides Plato and Pythagoras, I am very much based in Iamblichus, and he created theurgy. And theurgy, in contrast to other philosophies, is the first framework that really applies an embodied ritual. And that's what Iamblichus did. He lived in the 2nd century in current Syria, but it was part of Greece at that time. And he followed very much Pythagoras. So what he did, he encouraged his students, his followers, to live an embodied relationship with the gods. So he also emphasized transformation through the senses, in contrast to other philosophers who contemplated the soul up there and then evil down here. He was the first one to say, no, we are God's embodied, and we have to be present in our bodies. So he promoted an aesthetic experience with rituals to purify the soul. And of course, I am not suggesting we do the same, but in a sort of a contemporary theurgy, we can work with symbols, work with planetary archetypes, and then access an expanded state of mind and body. A bit like a theological practice, but with modifications, of course. Then archetypes. Let's see how they shape our perceptions and reactions. We could consider archetypes as unconscious templates. They are universal. They belong to all the cultures, and they have different names, but they refer to the same. And the interesting thing about archetypes is that they are so emotionally charged that they are a very powerful tool to work in coaching or therapy, because they are intermediates between the client and his issue. So they shape perceptions and reactions beyond rational control. We can give a name, and they act as symbolic mirrors. They recollect fragmented aspects of the soul. How we can recollect these fragmented aspects of the soul? When we honor the archetype and we know what they need, and we spend some time trying to do that. So my proposal is mythic questioning. And that means that we ask ourselves, what myth am I living, or what archetype is asking for recognition, instead of what's wrong with me, what's happening with me, why am I having this anger burst or depression? So if we say, what myth am I living, there's some discharge, there's some like we share the responsibility with the archetypes, so we feel better for that. And then we can reframe symbolically personal challenges. The process in coaching would start identifying triggers, showing curiosity, and then connect to the relevant archetype. Next, we help the clients to form how questions, so they can identify how the archetype is manifesting. So how is this Mars manifesting? Is this Mars manifesting giving me a lot of energy and adrenaline to follow my objectives, or is this Mars manifesting as aggressivity and impulsivity? And then we show the archetypal potential of the different possibilities, especially the positive ones, and emphasize actionable steps and promote steady action. So we are giving clients possibilities that they have since they are born, but they are latent possibilities, they are potentials, but they have it. It's not as these famous coaches that they are saying, yes, you can do it, you can. No, not everybody is the same. So archetypal work is a very valuable tool, so just to demand from clients or suggest actions that they already have this potential. Then how to understand and integrate subpersonalities. We recognize patterns and identify recurring patterns or inner voices to gain awareness. That would be connected to the two-chair dialogue, where we use dialogue to allow subpersonalities to express themselves. We connect these subpersonalities to archetypes for deeper understanding. And we use questions to explore the needs and benefits of each part. That could be something we could apply in active imagination, or we could hand some form like questionnaire so that clients can do it on their own at home. So how does Asagioli this identification work? He created affirmations like, I have emotions, but I'm not my emotions. I have desires, but I'm not my desires. And why did he do that? Asagioli was very much into astrology. There are some books that I cite in my book that explain this, but the same with Jung. They couldn't admit at that time that they were into astrology because it wasn't very well recognized. So what we can do, we can use Asagioli's affirmations and then connect it to the planetary imagery. For example, the moon for emotion, or strengthen self-observation. And the next would be how to transform limiting planetary patterns. We first identify them and recognize the negative manifestation. For example, Mercury is connected to thought, and it could happen, there's overthinking. Then we could replace with constructive qualities. For example, Mercury's insight, Mercury's ability to connect ideas, to make questions. And finally, visualize positive expression in active imagination, guided meditation. Here, just a quick explanation of each archetype on what they are expressing. The sun enhances identity and vitality. The moon governs emotions and safety. Mercury, the thinking process and communication. Venus inspires love, creativity, and beauty. Mars drives action, will, and assertiveness. Jupiter is connected with expansion, belief, and growth. Saturn instills discipline, structure, and resilience. And Uranus encourages innovation and freedom. Neptune fosters intuition and transcendence, and Pluto facilitates deep transformation and renewal. These are the positive traits. I'm not going to explain the negatives because we don't have much time, but these are the ones we really want to focus to transmit our clients. Here is an example about archetypal guidance and active imagination with Mercury. We connected the client's issue with Mercury, which is communication and thinking, because it was blocking her on her spiritual path because of the overthinking quality associated sometimes with Mercury. And she said, the thing was how to find a bridge between my mind and my soul. So one of the things that I did was to draw that, and I discovered that what could actually help was if the heart could connect these two things. That was a conclusion she reached after the active imagination session, and then she made this drawing. So how can we explore these positive potentials in the natal chart? We need to have some basic knowledge of astrology, of course, but we don't need to spend years. There are many good books in the market. First, we identify conflicting aspects related to the client's issue. For example, let's say the masculine planets like Sun and Mars are in a tense aspect, and that would be bringing some anger and impulsivity. But we can also address the positive aspect of Sun Mars, which could be leadership, initiative, and oriented to goals. And we could use that as potentials, as anchors, and highlight the positive leadership potential of this client. Another example of embracing self-worth through the Venus archetype. I had a client, she brought some undeserving beliefs about lacking self-love and appreciation. And the first dream that she brought was about a root vegetable, very old, symbolizing her lack of self-worth. And so we connected the need of valuing herself more with Venus. And then we were looking for activities connected with Venus at the end, but before we were just reflecting on Venus and how this dream was also addressing that she was worthy of pleasures. And what she did after the dream, she made a symbolic action. She had a symbolic action that was buying some very nice sourdough bread. And I gave her some homework to identify how her Venus could express in which creative activities. And finally, she enrolled in a writing course to nurture expression and communication, because her Venus is in the sign of Gemini, connected to communication. And she decided to do that. And that really worked for her need of relating to people, increasing self-esteem. And finally, she wrote this poem, Looking Up, because she liked, that's why she enrolled in this creative writing activity, and she wrote that. And yeah, well, I hope I have given you an overview of how I work. I didn't want to spend much time with too much theories, but that would be the basis. And here, if you want to take a look at my book in Routledge, I have put the link in the chat box, because you can access chapter 2 online for free. It's open access. And I'm going to stop sharing. If you have any questions, please, we're happy to listen to you.
Hi, Alba. That was wonderful. Really appreciate you talking to us today. I have maybe it's an idiotic question, but in your coaching work, do you give people astrological readings at the outset? Is that a part of your work?
Yeah, hi, Chris. Thanks for the question. This question is very meaningful. No, what we are doing is we are identifying, this is coaching, not an astrological reading. So what we are doing, we are identifying the client's issue with dream symbol and the archetype connected to the issue, okay, or maybe a couple of archetypes depending on the client's concern.
And
but
sorry,
I'm not reading the chart. No, it's just a tool in transpersonal coaching.
I have a follow-up question as well. When you're, say you have a client who has no real conception of what an archetype is, or perhaps interest in astrology. I mean, they may have come to see you because they are attracted to astrology in some way, or perhaps archetypes, right? How are you going to introduce an archetype in a session based on what the client may have shared with you?
Yeah.
And how might you do that with a client?
Okay, so in transpersonal coaching, we are dealing with the spiritual aspect of life. So first of all, they should be opened to some broader spiritual framework. And so basically, when we are born, well, that's the framework that I follow with ancient Greek philosophy. and archetypal psychology and archetypal astrology. When we are born into this dualistic world, we are fragmented, right? We have emotions, thoughts, acts, feelings, and all these fragments are symbolized by the planets in all the cultures. So, in a way, our clients have some fragmentation problem. That's why they come. If they were in the wholeness and totality, they wouldn't come. So, explaining that this archetype is helping us as a mediator to integrate something that needs to be integrated, right? Somebody who is like a Sufi master, they don't need this work. They already live in unity, right? And that happened to me when I was doing the certificate course. One of my peer coach, Selim, and in this moment, Selim was very much into Sufism and meditating a lot, and his aura was so sparkling and luminous that I didn't do any archetypal work with him. We were talking about other things because I knew, or maybe I just looked something basic, but he was above this fragmentation. So I could explain something like that. And when people are a bit like resistant to the planet influence, okay, let's start with the moon. The moon is the very small planet, very near to the Earth, and it's influencing us because we are 80% water, and the moon, everybody can see how it's influencing on the sea tides and on the growing vegetables and everything. So we are also here in this planet, we have ourselves water, and the other planets are even wider orbit and more powerful than the moon. And so, for example, something like that.
Thank you.
But if some client is not interested at all in listening to the word planets or astrology, we can always talk about subpersonalities, because Asagioli was talking about subpersonalities. Why? Because he couldn't talk about the real thing. And Jung as well. This is my opinion. He had to create his archetypes because he couldn't talk about astrology at that time. But in the Red Book, in Jung's Red Book, it's everything explained, his connection to astrology. And Jung wrote a letter to Freud, and he said, every afternoon, every night, I am looking at the natal charts of my clients. But he said it only to Freud. He couldn't say it in a book. But that's the thing. And it's a very powerful tool. I see how it can help people because you're not saying some abstract quality that he or he needs to integrate. You're saying something that you have in potential, and then explain how this Mars in Aries or Taurus, or explaining how this can work, and making questions to see how they are working it and how could they manifest this as well. And I follow Greg Bogart in this. Greg Bogart is a psychology teacher at Sonoma University and also an astrologer. And he has created this questioning technique, more like Socratic questioning, combining the astrological chart with his practice as a therapist. And I recommend his books. He's very good at that. And he's a teacher at a recognized university. So yeah, there are things happening. And also in the California Institute of Integral Studies with, what's his name? He wrote Cosmos and Psyche, Richard Darkness. And I think he's giving some conference here as well in Aleph. I've seen him sometimes, Richard Darkness. And Kieran Legrees, he gave a talk last week I couldn't attend it, but Karen Legris, he's also in Pacifica Graduate Institute. He's also working with archetypes, and that's something it's gaining a lot of momentum right now in the East Coast in United States, and gradually will come here, I'm sure. Yeah.
Thank you. It's good to get an understanding of how client sensitive the way you're working is. You know, it's useful for me. Thanks.
Thank you for your questions, Chris.
We're welcoming questions, and while we wait for the next question you'd like to ask, Alba, thanks for your very illuminating presentation. You gave examples of great questions to get the coaching conversation started with clients, and one that's really sticking with me, at least the way I understood the question, is what myth is living through me? Is that the example question you gave? What myth is living through me? What a wonderful opener for the coach to present to the client, because as the client talks about their issue, the invitation is for them to think about that in terms of a myth that's living through them.
Yes, and that's something that works perfectly. Like for example, in case of this client with Venus, we could connect it to Persephone and Aphrodite, or any other culture that she would like, because there are many different cultures that work with the same. And in fact, I had a client that we rather work with myth than with planetary archetypes. So we didn't talk about the planetary archetypes, we talk about the myth. So
and I can imagine that some clients might respond with a belief, the belief that they hold that is behind the issue, but the belief we, as people that are informed by your wonderful teachings, can help them to understand in a deeper way. It's what's making that belief a belief for them, beyond life experiences, trauma, and stuff like that, a trait that perhaps they've been born with, which is there because of deeper unconscious phenomena such as archetypes and planetary energies and so on, which I imagine we don't need to make explicit for the client, but it informs our understanding as transpersonal coaches, so that we're able to hold space more holistically for them.
You can choose how to do it. But the thing is that the archetypes, the word means primordial image. So that's the primordial image that our civilization in the West, in the East, everywhere, we have these patterns. So that's something, right? That's something that was presented to humanity at the beginning, from the beginning, in Egypt, in Sumeria, in ancient Greece, everywhere. So there must be something, right? I don't think all of the cultures are wrong having worked with these patterns. And so that's very powerful, because it relates to the beginning of our civilization, and it involves emotions. And well, if the client's emotions are involved, there's movement, right? Emotions move. We don't get stuck, you know, in the coaching process. We have something very powerful that is creating a lot of synergies with dream work as well. That's what the book is about, the synergies between archetypes and dreams. And this way, we don't get lost in astrological consultation. We are working with the primordial images and the dream images, and we are creating some synergies that accelerate the psyche, the psychological process. And the good thing about the artistic work as well, you know, the Jungian transcendence function, when they have been working with these dream symbols, archetypes, it's like you have been seeding the psyche, you know, fertilizing it. And then they can create something artistic. And when you are creating something, you are at the level of the gods because you are creating, right? So there's some sort of tuning into this God activity. So we are not just passive receptors of what is happening with the planets, my dreams. So we are creating. When somebody is creating, is above necessity, cause and effect. There's another level of consciousness. It's another type of energy, right? So that's also powerful. Symbol creating. And that's Jungian transcendent function. So you can integrate different fragments, symbols, patterns in a unified symbol that transcends duality. And just leaving this drawing or this ceramic, whatever they have created. It's the power of watching the symbols that they have created, and they keep producing synergies and insights over time. So that's the very interesting thing, you know, finishing with something artistic, which can be poem, draw, or building an altar, anything.
It keeps the work meaningful and inspiring, doesn't it? Yeah. So I'm handing over. Sahaja's had her hand up for a while, and Taya, I can hear that you've got a question on the tip of your tongue. So both of you.
Thank you, Alba. This is so interesting and it resonates so much. And I wanted, if it's okay, to share a little experience that I've had over time. I mainly work with beliefs, patterns of belief in my healing work, besides TCP. And I have a dear friend that is an astrologer, a Vedic astrologer, and also very much into meditation and spirituality. And so it happens that we sometimes have the same clients, and either I refer them to him when I want to know something deeper about the forces at play, or the other way around. They have been to him and then they come to me for a deeper work in healing the patterns. And one time I commented with him and saying that we almost always come to the same conclusions, through different approaches. The intuitions that I have or the analysis that I do is the same that he arrives at with the planets. And his answer was, the planets are patterns of the psyche. And that is so interesting to see how you have developed all this besides the astrological chart. I really resonate with it. So thank you so much.
Like in your book, let's say that, like, for example, I'm quite naive about this topic, like quite introductory level. Would your book be a good foundation to understand the archetypal energies, or does it really speak about how to work with clients primarily?
In the astrology chapter 5, you can find some basics. But I am also mentioning some other very good books of astrology, because I am not an astrologer. I just studied and I really like it, and all my life I have used it and I have investigated it. But yes, I give a very thorough detail about how astrology started in Egypt, Babylonia, Greece, and how it has evolved since the 20th century. And I speak about Jungian astrology, Asagiolian astrology, then transpersonal astrologers like Dane Rudyard, and so on, until Richard Darkman. So yeah, you can find something valuable there. but it's not an astrology recipe book. I will just say the basics of the planets and more related to archetypal astrology, transpersonal psychology, and so on. And I give a lot of detail about how it started in the ancient cultures, because I think it's important.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thanks, Alba. Fascinating again. I saw your other one and I just love the work you do. I've got a bit of a question, because I'm so fascinated with working with dreams and parts work. I've noticed with open awareness, with like the metaphor and the imagery that comes through with parts work and in dreams. But I'm kind of got my own idea about parts being like, they're like the complexes surrounding an archetype. And I'm really interested in how they show up in dreams. So I wondered, in your experience, I was kind of going on the premise that parts show up as lots of different symbols within dreams. But I was wondering if, in your experience, you've seen it as like a dream perhaps being a representation of one part, or whether there is evidence of, you know, lots of subpersonalities or parts within a dream, or whether because I kind of work on it as showing different aspects and different parts, but I'm wondering if I'm looking at it in the wrong way. It does seem to work, but
No. And I don't think there is any wrong way, because dreams are so right hemisphere. I don't think anybody can say this is the right way or the wrong way to work with dreams. It's just attuning to the dream language. Dreams speak the language of the soul. So we cannot be very much into reasoning with dreams. So there's a tendency right now of working dreams in a very embodied way. Like we do have Robert Bosnak and others from Pacific Accredited Institute. And I followed as well Robert Johnson. I think, Jevon, you put it in the reference of the TCP, Robert Johnson. He's Jungian, and he gives a very detailed way how to work with dreams. But above all, I like James Hillman, and he was the one who first started this imaginal psychology, and he followed these ancient Greek philosophers as well, and it's letting the dream speak to you. So you just write down impression. You describe the dream. You write down the first impressions, physically, sensations, and then you do something with the dream, something symbolic, active imagination, drawing. And then you can make questions to the parts, symbols that appear in the dream, and write automatically. And things will happen that you didn't expect. Because you start writing and you think, okay, I am thinking this answer, but no, things come that really surprise. Right? Like, for example, when I was doing this investigation for the book, I wrote all my dreams. And in one of my dreams, I saw a deer that only had one horn. And then I draw it, and then I ask, why do you only have one horn? And then I was like curious. But the answer, I didn't expect it. It came, and I wrote it from somewhere, I don't know where, and the answer was, this other horn that fell from the deer is your emotional reactions, old patterns that you don't need anymore. Things like this happen, but you just have to be very, in a hypnagogic state in between reality and dream, when you wake up and you're quiet. And then, of course, dreams manifest. And then what I do is I connect this with a planetary pattern. So I connected this with Venus, because I knew that that had something to do with the way I was handling relationships in the past. So yes, that is something that I do. I write my dreams, and then after I write some astrological symbols that help me do these connections, and I draw them. And then I make like a puzzle with all the images, and I leave the images next to me so that I can see them, and gradually I receive messages, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so would you, because I kind of follow like a Jungian sort of framework that I've been trying to pick up and learn, but so for example, say the animus for a woman showing up might be indicating, you know, leading her to what she's hiding or shadow or something like that. Do you stick with like, you know, a rigid framework like that, or do you just free flow with it and see what comes up for the client as in what they see that symbol as, rather than trying to interpret?
Any rigid framework is not going to work.
Okay.
Because if you want to get some magic work with your client, you cannot go with recipes. First of all, you have to be very open and attuned to the client's emotions, and do this empathic resonance, meditating with the client. And then next, yeah, you use symbols, but you don't get too much obsessed with these symbols, because maybe any symbol is going to work. Even a planetary archetype, dream symbol, or some synchronistic thing happening that the client has noticed. And one interesting thing is that in the after like some sessions, clients get a lot of synchronistic events, because when you're working with these parts of the psyche through symbols and patterns and archetypes, they start manifesting a lot of synchronicities. But that's because you are working in a way like the Wu way of the Tao. You are not forcing anything. You're just trying to, you know, the hypnagogic state in active imagination, that you are in between deep meditation and awakening. That's the state where you can work with dreams. I don't believe in these dictionary dream symbols. Well, maybe it's going to be helpful to know that water is connected to emotions. Yeah. That the different personalities, like I had when I was doing this investigation, I had a lot of dreams about opera singers, flamenco dancers, theater actors. And I was thinking, why all these people are, because they were acting, right? They were performing, and my inner self was asking me to dare to go in stage, no? Which is something that I rather not do, because I like to be in the backstage. No? But I kept having these dreams, and then finally I got the message. I said, okay, I get the message. And even I had dreams of a bird, many birds, and one of the birds was inside a jar and couldn't leave this. No, it was like something that had to fly. It was blocked. So sometimes it's very easy, sometimes it's not easy, and you have to keep making questions. But the thing is, write them every day, and then if you can do something artistic with your dreams, that will be very helpful. And when you write them every day, it's like a puzzle, and then you compare the last dreams, and then you see some basic patterns also in the dreams. Like my client who brought me the old root vegetable, she also had other dreams relating to something similar about self-esteem. So finally, it's your inner self saying, hey, listen to me, you have to pay attention to this, right? And then you can connect this with the archetype. But I would say always start with the dream. not with the archetype. Start with the dream. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much, Alba. That's brilliant. Thank you. I feel like I've been given permission to go and free flow a bit more, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Amanda, and then Jackie, you can come in after.
Hi, Alba. This has been really interesting for me because when it comes to archetypes, I haven't even been aware of planetary archetypes, and it's just been fascinating and something, I'm very interested to look in further. But I'm wondering if you would be open to me sharing something from a friend of mine. She's very, very spiritual, does a lot of inner work, and she is highly connected to her dreams, to a point where, she shares them with me, but I know it's obviously not my field. I find it very interesting to listen to her, to hear how she explores her reality and her dreams. She has an ability to communicate with herself while she dreams, give her body messages and things. And she recently sent me a message, and all she did was ask me if I'd ever heard of this happening before, and clearly I hadn't. Would you mind me reading it to you and see what you would say about this? Because I just found it so strange. So, hi, Amanda. Something is happening in my dreams. The environments that I'm in are very accurate. Rooms look exactly the same as in a waking life, to the smallest details, piping, wiring, doors. Last night in my dream, I wrote down my full form, a telephone number. I was able to read and write it, although the practice of writing was difficult and looked like children's writing. After writing it, I realized that it was my former number. I then tried to write down my current number, which I wasn't able to fully recall. And interestingly, I haven't fully memorized it in waking life. Have you ever heard of this? And then she goes on to say what she feels about this situation. But I'm just wondering if this is something that you have an interpretation on.
She should be here so that we can interpret her dream, right? Because you don't know and I don't know either, but of course she's writing her previous number, so there's something addressing her past. And then you should ask her, how can you connect this previous telephone number? What feelings arise for you, sensations? And then through her answers, you can build some meaning, but we cannot do it without her. But
no, it was just more curiosity, because it was the actual, the physically remembering the connection with the body, the writing, the feeling that she was writing it. Yeah. And she has these very...
This sounds like a lucid dreaming. It sounds as when you're in a dream and then it's like reality, it's very vivid, because some dreams are like movies, right? A bit blur, but some dreams is like you've been with somebody and you've been with this person, or she's writing and she's noticing the writing thing. I would say that's a lucid dream. But lucid dreams are even more powerful, because that's the psyche wanting you to live it in an intense way. So that could be an important dream to work with her and ask her, what does it mean for you, your old telephone number? What is it from the period where you had this telephone number that is important that your inner self is bringing now here? Working with that.
Yeah, she's a friend. She's not a client. She was just, because she knows, obviously, I've studied with Jevon, transpersonal psychology, etc. And she was just asking me openly, and it's not a field I'm aware of as such. I was actually, Jevon, would you mind, or Alba, would you mind sharing your book in the chat? Because I know you showed it, but it'd be great if you could maybe put either a link to it or something so that we could.
Yeah, it's in the chat, Amanda. It's in the chat.
Because I'd be very interested in sending it to her as well. And it'd be nice for us to obviously have it. But I did ask, and the normal question is, how did you feel, etc., etc. But obviously, as I said, she's not a client, she's a friend, and I would be taking myself down a rabbit hole I might not know how to come out of when it comes to dream work. So I kind of abstained.
But
I just found it very interesting.
if you want to look in my book, there's a specific guidance, step by step, for dream work at the end of the book as well.
Right.
And I would also read Robert Johnson's book, which is listed in Jevon's reference list.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Alba, thank you so much for your presentation. It was fascinating, really interesting. I'm curious if you ever find in your sessions that you have an intuitive hit around what something means, and then the person presents you with an idea of what it means to them. And do you ever find that the person might be in denial or disassociated or not seeing it, or do you always allow their truth to be the reality of what is going on with that situation? Or do sometimes you feel like your intuitive hit is stronger and clearer? I'm just wondering if you ever run into that and how you deal with it.
Yeah, thanks for this question, Jacqueline. So important. That's why the archetypal work is so useful, because the archetypes are helping us to see if we have a part that we are denying or projecting. So the defense mechanism, you can see them through the relationship between the archetypes. So normally when there is an opposition, two archetypes are one in front of the other, normally we project on the archetype that we least like. And there are certain archetypes that are very fond of integrating the shadows, like Pluto, Saturn, but anyone in fact. Because if you have a person who is narcissistic, right? And he's probably not going to show the lunar, the moon abilities to nurture, care for others. He's going to deny that, right? And yeah, it's fascinating how you can see through the relationship between archetypes aspects of the shadow. And that's why it's so important for shadow work, for transpersonal work. So when you teach the client, okay, this is your Pluto, this is your Saturn, this is your Sun, whatever is coming into the issue, they can integrate it and put some light there and accept it. Because you don't tell them you are blah, blah, blah. You say your Mars, your Pluto, and maybe this is happening, or there's this potentiality here. You say it indirectly, and that's the good thing about archetypes. You're not using you are. When we say I am or you are, that's like a big cross, no? You are like that, and very difficult to change here. But when you're using the archetype, it's like something in between you and your issue that takes most of the responsibility of what is happening in your life. But it's part of you. And you have to command this archetype at the end. So yeah, you can work it very well with archetypes, looking at the relationships with them. The oppositions normally indicate denial many times.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And any pattern that is a bit hidden in the natal chart, like the 8th house, the 12th house, these hidden houses, they can imply denial. Like we want to manifest the first house, this is the personality, how I want to be seen. The 10th house, the house of Saturn, of Capricorn, my ambitions, my career, how I want to be considered by the community. But there are other places of the natal chart that if you investigate, they're also part of us, but we don't really want to show, to make it visible. So that could be a way. And another more easy way and general way, just explaining the archetype features, general features.
So you might look at so when someone comes to see you, you have their natal chart in front of you, and already you start to work with it. You might not do a reading for them, but you're informed by it and allowing it to support you with your work with them.
Yeah,
so you always.
I don't look at the natal chart before the first session because I want to have the first impression free of this information. And then I look at the chart with the client after she or he has explained their issue. And then I just look for the patterns related to their issue. Otherwise, you get lost in so many possibilities that shows the natal chart, and there's no time for that, and it's not going to be helpful at the end. It's going to be too much information.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. It's very interesting. I've done full, on a whole different realm. I've done numerology readings for people for about 35 years. And I can see the numbers are like an energetic frequency that people carry with them in their lives. And there's tendencies that are similar to archetypes as well as astrology. And it's amazing how people attract names and birth dates that are numerologically, vibrationally consistent with their natal charts. It's almost like the person comes in with a certain vibrational frequency and they attract a name and a birth date that or a name that is in consistency with their natal chart. It's really quite fascinating. And the same with potential denial of energies, resistance to it, and they present it, but their connection to it is different than what I see in their chart, if you understand what I mean. So that's why I was curious about that. So, but thank you very much. I love your work. It's brilliant. I'm going to look into your book. So thank you very much for
the
presentation.
Rachel.
It's another practical question, actually, Alba, because I suspect you might be able to answer it for me. I don't know what time I was born, so I've never really been able to do like Ayurvedic Vedic charts or anything like that, and I don't really know how to find it out. What do you have any advice for anybody who doesn't know the exact time they were born?
Yeah, there are some good astrologers. They use techniques like the transits of Uranus. Normally the transit of Uranus, because Uranus represents change, something unexpected happens, something out of the blue. So looking at Uranus transits, you could more or less figure out your ascendant.
Alba,
yeah, thank you
so much.
Jevon. That was great. I enjoyed it a lot. And if anybody is interested, I think I will probably start some training and I will announce it on LinkedIn next year.
Alba, thanks again. I guess we could just go on and on and on talking about this amazing, deep and profound topic. Your unique style of transpersonal coaching extends our field into new frontiers, almost literally. So I look forward to having you back in the future to learn more about your work. And thank you all for your amazing questions that contributed to the depth of our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you all.
Here.
And thank you, Jevon. You have been an inspiration for me. So
likewise, you to me. Take care, everybody. Go well.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alba. Bye. Thanks, Jevon.
Thanks very much.